Yo, just had fantastic eats with my broski. Got a little dessert after at Salt and Straw. Got me a little cut today too. I was looking a little rough. It's a little late now. I think it's time for bed, but gotta get it done. So let's get straight to it. Relationships. From the foundation of character, we build and maintain win/win relationships. The trust, the emotional bank account, is the essence of the win-win. Without trust, the best we can do is compromise. Without trust, we lack the credibility for open, mutual learning and communication and real creativity. But if our emotional bank account is high, credibility is no longer an issue. Enough deposits have been made so that you know and I know that we deeply respect each other. We're forced on the issues, not on personalities or positions. Because we trust each other, we're open. We put our cards on the table. Even though we see things differently, I know that you're willing to listen with respect while I describe the young woman to you. And you know that I'll treat your descriptions of the old woman with the same respect. We're both committed to try to understand each other's point of view deeply and to work together for the third alternative, the synergistic solution, and there will be a better answer for both of us. A relationship where bank accounts are high and both parties are deeply committed to win-win is the ideal springboard for a tremendous synergy. Habit 6. That relationship nearly makes the issue any less real or important, nor eliminates the differences in perspective. But it does eliminate the negative energy normally forced on differences in personality and position and creates a positive, cooperative energy focused on thoroughly understanding the issues and resolving them in a mutually beneficial way. But what if that kind of relationship isn't there? What if you have to work out an agreement with someone who hasn't even heard of win-win and is deeply scripted to win-lose or some other philosophy? Dealing with win-lose is a real test of win-win. Rarely is win-win easily achieved in any circumstance. Deep issues and fundamental differences have to be dealt with. But it is much easier when both parties are aware of and committed to it and where there is high emotional bank account in the relationship. When you're dealing with a person who's coming from a paradigm of win-lose, the relationship is still the key. The place to focus is on your circle of influence. You make deposits into the emotional bank account through genuine courtesy, respect, and appreciation for that person and for the other point of view. You stay longer in the communication process. You listen more. You listen in greater depth. You express yourself with greater courage. You aren't reactive. You go deeper inside yourself for strength of character to be proactive. You keep hammering it out until the other person begins to realize that you genuinely want a resolution to be real win for both of you. That very process is a tremendous deposit in the emotional bank account. And the stronger you are, the more genuine your character, the higher your level of proactivity, the more committed you really are to win-win. The more powerful your influence will be with that other person. This is a real test of interpersonal leadership. It goes beyond transactional leadership into transformational leadership, transforming the individuals involved as well as the relationships. Because win-win is a principle people can validate in their own lives, you will be able to bring most people into a realization that will win more of what they want by going for what you both want. But there will be a few who are so deeply embedded in the win-lose mentality that they just won't think win-win. So remember that no deal is always an option, or you may occasionally choose to go for the low form of win-win compromise. It's important to realize that not all decisions need to be win-win, even when the emotional bank account is high. Again, the key is the relationship. If you and I work together, for example, and you were to come to me and say, Stefan, I know you won't like this decision. I don't have time to explain it to you, let alone get you involved. There's a good possibility that you'll think it's wrong, but will you support it? If you had a positive emotional bank account with me, of course I'd support it. I hope you were right and I was wrong. I'd work to make your decision work. I'd work to make your decision work. If the emotional bank account weren't there and if I were reactive, I wouldn't really support it. I might say I would I would to your face, but behind your back, I wouldn't be very enthusiastic. I wouldn't make the investment necessary to make it succeed. It didn't work, I'd say, so what do you want me to do now? If I were overreactive, I might even torpedo your decision and do what I could to make sure others did too, or I might become miraculously obedient and do exactly and only what you tell me to do, accepting no responsibility or results. During the 5 years I lived in Great Britain, I saw that country brought twice to its knees because the train conductors were miraculously obedient in following all the rules and procedures written on paper. An agreement means very little in letter without the character and relationship base to sustain it in spirit. So we need to approach win-win from a genuine desire to invest in relationships that make it possible. Agreements. From relationships flow the agreements that give definition and direction to win-win. They are sometimes called performance agreements or partnership agreements, shifting the paradigm of productive interaction from vertical to horizontal, from hovering supervision to self-supervision, from positioning to being partners in success. Win-win agreements cover a wide scope of interdependent interactions. We discussed one important application when we talked about delegation in the Green and Clean Story in Habit 3. The same 5 elements we listed provide the structure for win-win agreements between employers and employees, between independent people working together on projects, between groups of people cooperatively focused on a common objective, between companies and suppliers, between any people who need to interact to accomplish. They create an effective way to clarify and manage expectations between people involved in any interdependent endeavor. In the win-win agreement, the following 5 elements are made very explicit. Desired results, not methods, identify what is to be done and when. Guidelines specify the parameters, principles, policies, etc., within which results are to be accomplished. Resources identify the human, financial, technical, or organizational support available to help accomplish the results. Accountability sets up the standards of performance in the time of evaluation. Consequences specify good and bad, natural and logical, what does and will happen as a result of the evaluation. These 5 elements give win-win agreements a life of their own. A clear mutual understanding and agreement up in front in these areas creates a standard against which people can measure their own success. Traditional authoritarian supervision is a win-lose paradigm. It's also the result of an overdrawn emotional bank account. If you don't have trust or a common vision of desired results, you tend to hover over, check up on, and direct. Trust isn't there. So you feel as though you have to control people. But if the trust account is high, what is your method? Get out of their way. As long as you have an upfront win-win agreement and they know exactly what is expected, your role is to be a source of help and to receive their accountability reports. It is more enabling to the human spirit to let people judge themselves than to judge them. In a high trust culture, it's much more accurate. In many cases, people know in their hearts how things are going much better than the records show. Their discernment is often far more accurate than their observation or measurement. I'll take a pause there. It's kind of late. I think it would be a good time for me to get some rest. Been pretty active today. On the basis of agreements, I think setting the standard is always very important when you're establishing a relationship with a new individual, or even when you're establishing a clear vision or goal with your team or organization. But one thing I want to talk about very briefly, and this kind of really sums up the whole idea of what this book is trying to get to, but the idea around, if you are strong, if it says the stronger you are. So in other words, if you are a strong person, or if you're a person with real good intentional values and principles, you're gonna fulfill a lot more relationships because of who you are as a person, or you're gonna have relationships that are geared towards your way. And this is why it kind of goes after saying, it goes into saying the more genuine your character, the higher your level of proactivity, the more committed you really are to win-win, the more powerful your influence will be with the other person. If you're a strong person, if you're a person with good intentions, good values and principles, you will attract people that perhaps not only are within that same realm, but perhaps want to get up to your level, right? They inspire you as an individual, they inspire your leadership, they inspire the values that you have in their life. And if I remember correctly, I've had this one class where you want to attract people that have the same values as yourself in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's the reality of what this book is trying to get when it comes to relationships. Now, I like how it's kind of tying into, okay, you have your relationships, you understand how to align yourself with a win-win mentality, but also from the other person to have a win-win mentality. But after that, okay, what do the agreements look like between you two? What are the set requirements or standards to make sure that we maximize the performance of a relationship, but also the performance of each other, to make sure that we have a win-win still, not a win-lose or a lose-win. And it kind of goes into different guidelines about what a win-win agreement could look like. But I think that's very important. I think kind of look at it from my own life. I would say a win-win agreement to somebody that I know, or somebody that I hold, somebody that I know is very close to me, is the idea that, hey, we're gonna be honest with each other. We're gonna probably say some jokes, but at the end of the day, we still love each other. Yeah, these jokes might come around a little harsh, but you know, if they do come out a little harsh, come up to me, and I'm always willing to. I have the door open for you to say, hey, you know, tone back on these jokes a little bit, because I like to make some jokes. I like to have some fun. I'm very humorous, but if we have that agreement, knowing, hey, we can both have this sense of humor, but we can also both come to the table and say, hey, maybe this is crossing the line. I think this is where communication comes into play, but also where our relationship stands and how we can further continue this win-win relationship with the majority of my friends. So yeah, we'll continue the rest of this habit tomorrow. As always, I'll see you guys, and have a good rest of your night. Happy Friday, and have a good weekend.